Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our West Valley Village with the fourth trimester, Arizona. We are delighted to see you here today. And today we're talking about parenting in a pandemic. What would we keep? What do we want to let go of from this time? Are there any silver linings? And anything that we learned? Was there something we learned that we wouldn't have learned any other way? So we're going to start by talking a little bit about the fourth trimester conference because that's coming up on April 23rd. So less than 3 weeks away at this point. So if you haven't gotten your tickets yet, I'm going to show you how to go ahead and get them. And I'm also going to take you through the website so you can see who's speaking. So let me share my screen. Here we go. All right. So here's our website. This is the front page. If you are looking for what's going on at the fourth trimester conference, if you go to events, you can click on the 2022 conference, and there's a whole page devoted to it about what it is, what we're doing, the fact that it's free to those with weekend access, our event schedule, which is really big, and our sponsors, and then some frequently asked questions. So one of the ones that's on here that I don't know if anyone has looked at yet is that you can get a certificate of attendance if you need professional development hours. So if that's something that you're interested in, there'll be a survey at the end of the conference for you to take, and then you can get your certificate of attendance. But let's go in and see who's presenting and all the rest of this fun stuff. So I was going to show you the agenda first. So we're going to start, as we usually do, with a meditation and honoring of native land. And I'm super excited for that. Then we're moving into our main sessions. So surviving to thriving with Terry Ellers, who's a local postpartum counselor, and postpartum fitness. What is the fourth trimester? And you notice that each of these has a translation in Spanish. That's because we are offering Spanish interpretation for this conference. We have Amanda Singer back, who's going to be doing our breastfeeding and chest feeding healing circle. We have Desiree Maltzby from Tucson, who's talking about intimacy and sensual pleasure after you have a baby, which can be way more challenging. We'll have our own village leads talking about finding your parenting village. And then we're moving into our exhibitor session. And during our exhibitor session, some of the exhibitors are actually putting on their own presentations. So stay tuned for that. We'll show you what that's got up there. Also during lunch, Desiree Hammond from Tucson is going to go over yoga and somatic practice for grounding. If you attended the fourth trimester ecosystem summit in the fall, she was the one who did our grounding sessions then. She's amazing. I think you'll really enjoy that. We have a really good session by Emily Ruth McIntosh about infant loss and healing from that. Clark Bear with the Maternal Mortality Review Committee will talk about maternal mental health and substance use disorder in Arizona and what's been happening. Dina Tipstrany is going to talk about healing through the postpartum in more alternative ways to support your healing. And then we have a dad session with Chaz Smith of South Phoenix Healthy Start, who's going to talk about the importance of dads to child development. Keely Bruner is going to be talking about creativity, which I can't wait for. She has a little surprise she's going to be talking about as well, that we're starting here at fourth trimester. And then first things first, talking about sports and resources. The session that I've really been looking forward to, because I might need a little help with this, is being led by Dr. Jessica Kafer. She's talking about managing mom rage, which if you haven't experienced that before, maybe you don't need to attend this session, but I think many of us have had that experience where rage is what comes out of our anxiety or depression more than sadness. So that one's going to be really good. NICU parenting in a pandemic will also be great. This is led by Holly Lozano, who's a NICU nurse. We're going to have a lot of parents come on and talk about their experience. The Lullaby Project is a new and a little bit secret thing, but if you go on our website, you'll find out about that. That's going to be led by Gretchen Bickert to talk about what the Lullaby Project is. As you can imagine, it has something to do with music. Everyone always asks us to talk about sleep, and this year I'm so glad that we have someone who's going to talk about it, and that's Lauren Fucci. She's going to talk about newborn sleep. And then Sabrina Butler from Tucson talking about purpose, passion, and progress in parenting. What do you do afterwards? As always, we're going to have sound healing, and we're going to add meditation to that. So Jen Hoprich and Gretchen Bickert will be leading that. And then at the end, we're going to be ending with our 4th trimester ceremony. So we got a pretty good lineup, but if you want to take a look at some of those and look at a little bit more of what they're about, you can go ahead and go to the website, click on 2022 conference and go to agenda. We also have a lot of great exhibitors who have booths, and you can actually visit most of their booths already. They're already up in the app, and you can also visit our sponsors. And our sponsors are the reason we're able to put on this event every year. So make sure you take a look and see what's going on there as well. All right. Well, why don't we get into talking about what we're going to talk about today? So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Oh, last thing I was going to share here. Stop share. I'm going to share one more thing. Maybe if I can find it. Maybe not. Yeah, I don't think it's going to let me do it. I was just going to share the flyer for it, but it doesn't look like it's going to let me. But if you want to purchase tickets, if you go ahead and go to our website and click on the events and click on the conference, you should be able to go here, click on register now, and it'll take you to the spot where you can purchase tickets. And they're still just $25 and free for those who are Wicker Access participants. All right, I'm going to stop sharing. There we go. And now we're going to take a little time to talk about what it was like to be a parent during the pandemic, what it still is like to be a parent during a pandemic, and what's changed and what we'd like to keep. So I can start. Let's see. The first thing that comes to mind about what I'll take with me is that during the pandemic, I, out of sheer desperation, developed an exercise routine. And it was mostly because I couldn't manage my mental health otherwise. And so now that things are a little bit more stable and my kids are in school, again, I most mornings will get up and go for a bike ride and go sit and look at ducks. And this has become something that if I don't get it, I notice, and it makes a huge difference. And honestly, I don't know if I would have done it without the pandemic. I don't know if I wasn't thrown into something where I just had so much stress, if I would have recognized that exercise was not something I just needed to do for my health, that it was actually for my mental health. Yeah. So that's my first thing of what I'll take with me. Lily, do you have any thoughts?
I mean, I personally say, because I wasn't really a parent before the pandemic, I was pregnant and I was gonna be a new mom. And so I had all these thoughts on how parenting was gonna be and all this help from other people, like just all that advice. But it kind of all fell through when it came to advice, being pregnant advice anyhow, because I couldn't really use a lot of it because I sat at home a lot. I mean, it was really hard to go to doctor's appointments, and I went to most of them alone, which was really hard to not experience that with a significant other, especially when it's your firstborn. And then a lot of things in pregnancy that you expect, like all the classes you research, but you don't get those. And I'd say like the biggest thing is with my mental health, because I wasn't working, I was home. I think the biggest thing I did is I threw myself into research on everything pregnancy. I read books about a newborn and pregnancy and everything, any knowledge I could soak in, which wasn't a negative thing. I mean, I'm not a big researcher. I really like to just learn as I go. But it was kind of nice to know like as much as I did. But really, when you have a kid, the books can help, but they didn't really do as much as I wanted them to. But I know that everyone's like, every kid gets sick, but I think with the pandemic, my biggest thing that I have right now that comes to my mental health is whenever my son gets sick. Like before, it used to be, oh, he has a sniffle, let's just give him some meds, they'll be better. Because I watched my parents raise my brothers with that, we had a big 10-year gap. But now it's, oh, he has a sniffle, it's like, what do I need to do? Like, I need to put the humidifier on. I need to get vapor rub. I need to give him a warm bath so it soaks everything up. And I feel like everything just kind of added that strain. And I'm just now getting to the point where I'm like, oh, he has the sniffles. But now, you know, with the second pregnancy, I'm starting to get into my research all over again, because it's like my repetitive nature of the nervousness of the pandemic. But that's how I dealt with it.
Yeah, I agree with you with the sniffles. I feel like, yeah, I mean, so my kids are 7, 10, and 15, and you have a 2-year-old, right?
Yeah, about to, yeah.
Yeah. The sniffles now have a different meaning, right? Like, I feel like I have to test my kid for COVID every time he gets the sniffles.
Well, it's either you have to test them for COVID, or you go into stress like, oh my gosh, what if something's going on?
Could they have this? Or what if it's yeah.
Like, there's so many thoughts that go through your brain. It's, okay, do I need to test him for COVID? Okay, let's see if he runs a fever. If not, what else could it be? What other, is there another strain of COVID that it's not going to show up on a test? Like,
true. It does feel like we've been so focused on COVID for so long that I kind of forgot that there were like other bugs that children do get, right?
And my dad, he's PA in an emergency room. So he always comes home. He's like, hey, just so you know, this illness is going around right now. I'm like, thank you, Father. I really appreciate you giving me the heads up, but it doesn't make me stress any less when my son starts having more full diapers. Oh my gosh, what's going on? What's wrong with your system? Not, you know, he probably ate too much fruit, but the fear of, okay, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think what else I will take with me from this time. I mean, whether I want to or not, I'm taking a whole heck of a lot of Zoom with me.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like, I think in a lot of ways, online meetings have made a lot of things simpler. So I have way more meetings because I can do them online, right? Whereas before it'd be like, oh, I'd have like 1, maybe 2 meetings a day. Now it's like, well, I can have a whole day full of meetings and stay in one place. So, you know, that's not that big of a deal. So yeah, I don't know if I think that's better or worse. Maybe we get a little bit more done with that. What else will I take with me? I think, you know, as hard as it was long-term, in the short term and in little moments, that time that I got with my kids, I wouldn't have gotten otherwise. So mine was in kindergarten, my youngest. And so I had been like mourning the fact that he was going to kindergarten, and he didn't. Right. So I guess I sort of got my wish that he would still be home with me. Maybe not in the way that I thought it was going to happen, but, and you know, there's lots of sweet little moments from that. As much as it was hard to work and try to manage their school and everything, it was still, I don't know, I guess I got to be more present with them, and we did more stuff together. We ended up going to the Boyce Thompson Arboretum a ton. We didn't know where else we could go that was safe and outdoors, right? So we go out in nature, and that became a favorite. We spent a lot more time in our backyard.
Oh yeah, that's a really good point, because I mean, one thing I always talk about with like my family and my fiance, because he wasn't around a lot through the pregnancy with Slade, because he was just so worried with him going to work that he was going to get me sick, and no one knew how I was going to react to it being so pregnant. But I got to spend so much time like being pregnant and being home and really feeling my body. So I feel like me and Slade had like a really big bonding experience while he was still in my stomach, because I was constantly like, when he moved, I sat there and we'd talk and we'd have the conversations, because I didn't have anyone else to talk to anyways. And my family went on a lot of camping trips. So it was like it may have been hard and stressful, but it was so nice to just enjoy being pregnant, which most people don't get to do, because you're like, oh, I have to go to work. Oh, I don't feel good. Like, you have all the negatives, but being home and just pregnant and being able to take care of myself how I wanted to, and being able to go camping for a couple nights and just be with the world and pregnant, it was a whole different experience than probably a lot of people get, being able to experience it. Because I mean, even this pregnancy, I feel like I've been like, oh my God, I don't feel good. Oh, I have to go to work. Oh, I don't want to do this. Whereas before, it was so nice to just soak in that time with the baby and soak in the time with my brothers and my parents and really get ready for a baby. Whereas most people, it's like running around trying to get all the information you can. So that was a nice, like, it may have been hard, but it was still nice to experience all that time with the people you wanted to.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah, a friend of mine, we were talking about how it seems like this spring is so busy. We're like, oh my gosh, why is everything going so fast? I think it was always fast in the spring. I think maybe we just had such a slowdown for 2 springs that we all went like, wait, what? Oh, yeah, I agree. The slowing down was good. It was good in a lot of ways. Okay, so what will you leave behind? I got a lot of things I want to leave behind. I would really like to leave behind this heightened level of anxiety that it seems like the pandemic like brought on top of me, that doesn't seem like has quite left, right? Like, yeah, that's maybe the thing I would most like to leave behind, but I don't know if we ever really will, right? Like, how are we changed by this? How is that gonna show up in the future? Is there going to be, 5 years from now, is it all going to be kind of back to what we thought normal was? Or are we forever going to just be, looking out of one eye? I don't know.
I don't know. That's a good point. I mean, I can definitely understand the heightened anxiety, but I feel like that also is something that's not too bad to take, because I feel like, at least as parents, we've learned how to roll with the punches now because we've been through that. Everything else will seem less stressful and less high of anxiety because we've all been there. And I mean, yes, it can get worse, but that was a pretty big hardship to get through. And it's just something we can carry through and remember that we can get through that. We can get through a lot of things.
It's really true. Actually, you're right about that. I think in some ways, there's that saying, right? Like, you're going to get this through this because you've gotten through 100% of the things in the past. Yep. Yeah, that's true. You're right. Maybe I personally need to take a deep breath and recognize that, like, you made it. You're on the most of the other side anyway, right? Of this whole pandemic gig. Yeah. What else would we leave behind? What do you think, Lily?
Literal things, masks.
Good, right? Wouldn't that be nice?
I still have to wear them to, like, when I go to my OB appointments and Slade's doctor's appointments, and I'm like, I totally understand, but I am so thankful that it is not as required as it used to be.
Yeah.
Because I get that they were for the safety and the use of them was for a good cause. But gosh, I hated being like, oh, I forgot my mask. What am I going to do?
Yeah, I agree. That would be really nice not to have a little supply of masks everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What else are we going to leave behind from pandemic era? Oh, I think for me, it's mostly it's stress and masks. Maybe isolation.
I'm like so bad. I'm always like, I need to get out of the house because I spent so much time in my house when I was pregnant that ever since I had Slade and he got past, the first 3 months, because he was born in that like winter era like time, I was like, okay, between COVID and RSV, like, we're staying inside. But past that, I was like, I need to go. Oh, I need to go to the store for milk. Cool. We're going to go to like 4 stores because Slade needs to actually meet people and be around people, and taking him to the zoo so we can actually like meet other children and be around them. Because gosh, like, being stuck in one place for such a long time, it's so nice to see people. Even the people you don't really want to see, it's so nice to see them.
Yeah, I agree. I think it made, like, when we actually got to see people, it became a joy instead of like, oh gosh, well, we got to go talk to people. It was like, oh my gosh, I could talk to you. Yeah, I remember when we started going out to dinner again, like outside, and I was like, oh, we could meet outside. That's so great. I would love to do that, right? And it's like such a thrill instead of something that, we just used to take it for granted. Yeah, we'll go meet.
I know when I was pregnant, I hated that I couldn't like see anyone. Like I couldn't celebrate my pregnancy. I couldn't have the baby shower I wanted. Even when Slade was born, I was very cautious on who I let to meet him so fast, and I kind of waited on others because I was like, I don't want to take any chances with too many people being around him. And then like all of the holidays were canceled, so no holidays got celebrated most of Slade's first year. And now like our big family that I usually hate going to is finally getting back to celebrating holidays, and they're doing like Easter, and I was so upset because I'm like, I'm in Hawaii, like I can't come to Easter. And usually before I'd be like, oh, so glad I dodged that bullet. And like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm gonna miss it this year. I don't get to see everyone.
Yeah.
Such a big difference.
It is so different. Yep. I totally agree. Oh, Camille is joining us. Let's see. So the other question I have is there anything we learned during the pandemic about ourselves or someone else or the community? I think, what did I learn about myself during the pandemic? That I could handle way more than I thought and not die, right? Like that was one thing that I think I didn't realize I was capable of. Every time I had to stretch more and change more, homeschool and whatever else it was that we had to do, I learned that I still could handle it. It didn't kill me. So maybe it was resilience, far more resilient than I thought. Yeah, I think the other thing that was really interesting to me that I learned being a lactation consultant during this time as well is that how much informal knowledge is passed between parents that wasn't being passed. So when I would do breastfeeding classes prior to the pandemic, most of them were all in person, and people would come to the classes already knowing tons of stuff, right? They would like have, I don't know, maybe from friends, colleagues, maybe from I don't know where they knew it. I just knew that there was like this baseline level of stuff people already pretty much knew. And about 6 or 8 months into the pandemic, when I'd been teaching breastfeeding classes online for that long, it started to feel like people didn't have that baseline level of knowledge, which was really fascinating to me because I don't know where they would have gotten it. Maybe they were taking other breastfeeding classes, but I kind of feel like maybe it was just friends were sharing, like you're at work, right? And your friends like, oh yeah, actually this happened to me, and don't forget to buy this, and don't forget to do this, and you should probably do this. And so they would come in being like, oh yeah, I've heard about colostrum, I've heard about nipple shields, I've heard about, all these things. And now, I mean, not everyone, it's getting a little bit better again, because I think people are getting around in person again, but there was about a year where it felt like there was just no informal knowledge. And it was the same thing with moms after they had their babies. All the knowledge that they were getting was either from their pediatricians or whoever was in their closest circle that was like around them. And so like all of that informal knowledge sharing that we do, right? It happens when we're together, not necessarily when we're like calling each other on the phone and on Zoom. Yeah, it's weird. Hi, Camille.
Can you share the question you posed?
Oh yeah. So we have been talking about parenting in a pandemic, and this question was anything that we learned about ourselves or someone else or the community.
Well, I think because I had my baby right before it really hit in 2019. So it was right before, and so I kind of learned that even though we were in a pandemic and things were happening, they knew we couldn't visit people. Our family members knew we had to stay in our little family unit bubbles. They still expect the children born during that time to have already been socialized. So like they expect my daughter to feel comfortable seeing people, meeting people that they've never seen before. Right. And so I learned for myself that how to say no and how to put up more boundaries. Because immediately family members thought, well, she needs to come to me. She's seen a picture of me. It's like, she's never met you, she doesn't know who you are. She saw a picture of you. Yes. Or she saw you on Zoom. Awesome. But that's not enough,
No.
especially for toddlers. So I learned very quickly about that, and then enforced myself to put up better boundaries, where I don't, expect my children to know or want to be around everyone that they should know or want to be around in a normal situation, because she wasn't socialized enough to know these people.
Be with the world and pregnant.
So I think I learned that very quickly, because it was uncomfortable in the beginning, obviously, to have to tell like grandparents or parents like, hey, she doesn't know you. She doesn't want to have to talk to you, or she doesn't want to because she doesn't have that knowledge. She doesn't know who you are. You're a stranger right now. And I'm sorry if that makes you uncomfortable. But a lot of people, especially I think in the older age groups, to myself, they assume children just automatically want to come up and hug everyone and those kinds of things. But the pandemic really reminded me, and I think it's starting to remind that age group as well, that if kids don't know you, they're going to set up boundaries, and it's our job as their parents to help enforce those boundaries.
Wow. Yeah. Boundaries. Goodness. That was a big one, wasn't it? Like no matter what it was about, there were so many boundaries in the pandemic. I mean, there still are, but yeah, you're right. I think it was almost like it forced us to like reckon with that. Maybe you were really good at boundaries before that, but
no, not really. With some stuff, I'm sure, but like because my family, I've wanted children for so long, and then when you finally have them, you expect it to go a specific way, right? And then your family members expect it to go that way too. But then when a pandemic hits, you didn't predict that, right? So yeah, yeah, I had boundaries, but not as secure, I think, as I should have had.
Yeah, I remember going to Home Depot with my littlest, he was 5 when the pandemic started, I think, and he was still in preschool. And so he had to be 6 by then. And this is when like things seemed safer. I think it was last July. And so we went to Home Depot, and outside of Home Depot was this guy who was like a volunteer clown. And my kid was like, the guy was super nice. Hey, you want a clown nose? And my kid was like, he just like turned his face and like walked away. And I was like, I'm so sorry. Like he has not been around people.
Yeah, it's true.
And then when they were at the grocery store for the first time after not having been for like a year, oh my gosh, they were so joyful. That was the other funny thing. Like I took them both to Sprouts or something, and they're just like, oh, look at these muffins. This is so cool. Oh my gosh, right? And I like look at the other shoppers and I'm like, I'm sorry, they've been locked up for a year.
Oh, I have a distinct memory with my youngest being in the grocery store, getting some groceries right before the shutdowns happened. Yeah. And then she was in a car seat sitting, in the stroller. And then the next time I ever took her back, she was a full-blown 2-year-old. And I'm thinking, man, all those interactions and things she missed, right? She doesn't know how to react in the store. Yeah. And people like to come up to her and do those things, and so she has no idea. Yeah. And people think she's rude. I've had someone say to me that they thought my daughter was, wow, well, she's quite standoffish. And I was like, she was born and raised in a pandemic, so she's gonna be.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Anything you've learned, Lily?
I mean, I definitely would say a lot of it would be just under the topic of strength, because getting pregnant and then, all your joy being basically sucked out after 12 weeks because of a pandemic really taught me. I was like, how am I going to do this? Never been pregnant before. I don't even know how to be a mom. And now you're telling me I have to worry about a pandemic as well the next 9 months, and then for my child after that. So I definitely feel like strength was a big one, like learning how much I could get through. And I think that really just helped me as a mom. I was like, well, if I can do this, I can definitely do this. And boundaries was definitely a big one too, because like when my son was born, I was very specific about when people came to visit him. I was like, you need to wear a mask. I will have gloves on him. I will have socks on him, because I know everyone wants to see the teeny tiny fingers and the teeny tiny toes, but those are things that he's going to put in his mouth, and I don't want anyone else's germs on him. And so like when people would come over and they wouldn't have a mask, hey, I need you to put a mask on. I need you to sanitize. Like I got really good about doing those things. And when people would try to remove his glove, I'd be like, hey, no, like, I need you to put the gloves back on. Like, I'm sorry, I know you want to see that, but this is me and taking care of my child. And I think protection became a really big thing too, because you're already a parent and you want to protect your child. But I think the pandemic made it such a bigger topic in my life, like making sure that he was good and he wasn't going to get sick, because it was winter too. Like, there were too many other things that he could have gotten. And then on top of it, like, people trying to like mess with him in the grocery store. Like, I remember there was a couple of times I had to go to the store and he'd be in his car seat, as a newborn. I had the cover over his car seat and people would literally walk up to his car seat and try to take off the cover. I was like, excuse me, like, that's not your child. That is not your stuff. Please do not touch my child. Like, no one gave you permission to come up here. I don't care if I'm at a worker and this is the store you work at, but this is my child and I have him coded in the way I need him coded for my worries and for his safety. And it was so funny to me that, like, people would just, like, do you not understand that we're in a pandemic? This is my newborn. Like, you can tell he is a tiny child. Please. I get you've probably been a parent and you've been a grandma or some sort of parent, but when it's not your family and your child, you have to respect those boundaries of, like, here's a literal cover that's literally basically saying, do not look at my child, do not touch him, and you're still ignoring that. And kind of just standing up for myself, like, sorry, like, this is my kid, which I didn't have that. Like, I hadn't been there before. I was like, oh, I remember going to the grocery store with my brothers when they were kids and people just, like, saying hi and talking to my brothers, like, no big deal. Whereas I was like, no, sorry, like, no, thank you. But yeah, I will say it was really funny with Slade, because he was so used to, like, he grew up with me wearing a mask all the time. I mean, thankfully I didn't have a mask on when he was literally born because I had ruined my mask. But other than that, like, we go to the store and he'd look at me funny, like, what are you wearing, Mom? But he got so used to reading other people's eyes in the grocery store that I always thought it was so cool, because he could tell that they were smiling at him without actually seeing that. And one of the first times I took him to the store and people weren't in masks, he would cry when they smiled at him, because he was so used to people being in masks that it actually scared him for a while that people would speak to him and they would smile. And he had been so used to one thing that change. Now, if someone comes up to him, he runs to me. He's like, no, Mom, I don't know who this is. Like, freaks out. So it was a big change. But boundaries are definitely a big thing too. Because, I mean, even now, if my son doesn't want to, like, hug a grandma or give someone a kiss, I'm like, he doesn't have to. That's his decision. And honestly, in my mind, like, that's less terms that he's going to take in. So he doesn't want to because you weren't around a lot, or he doesn't know you very much. Like, that's his choice. I'm not going to force my child to hug you because you want him to.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even think about the mask thing. I think there's been a study that was talking about how babies were learning how to identify expressions just from the eyes. But it made sense. Like, when I'm a lactation consultant, right? So I see a lot of babies. And so I'd, like, super exaggerate my expressions. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you can't even see my face. I'll be like, hi. But yeah, wow, they must have gotten so good at that. I wonder if that part of their brains is, like, more active or something, right? Because they say that they learn how to do this, right? They see this and they see this, but if they're only seeing this, that's like interesting. I wonder what that's going to mean for future. Fascinating.
I always find it really impressive because he even, like, I think it, like, saw him, even now if he watches, like, Toy Story, he picks up their expressions from watching them, and granted it's their whole face, but it's still, he's so well versed in expressions because of that. So when, like, Woody laughs, he starts laughing. When he smiles at the screen. When someone cries, he starts crying. It's just it's so entertaining for me to watch how that has evolved past the masks. Whereas before I was like, how are you even doing this? How do you even know that they're happy with you and you're, like, sitting here smiling at them? Because the only person he would see is the only child he was ever around was my baby cousin Michaela. They were, like, 8 months apart. And so I was like, at least they can spend all that time together, because I wasn't worried about them passing germs. Like worst case, like we saw my aunt and my uncle all the time. So I was like, he needs some kind of form and they need to get to know each other. And so because of that, like growing up around her now, he's also he cares a lot about his plastic baby and takes him everywhere, and they're inseparable. Like they see each other probably like 3 times a week. But like even them, like they've both grown up around this. So they do so well when they can tell if you're upset with them. Like Michaela, she'll start crying the moment you look at her in the wrong way, because she knows that you're mad. She knows that she did something wrong. And she's like, I'm really sorry. Like, and she just starts crying. And it's crazy how they just read that so fast because of the pandemic.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought about that, but you're right. It could be like a semi superpower. Maybe they're really good at reading micro expressions. Interesting. Yeah. I'm trying to think what else that I've learned. I mean, I'm sure we've learned a lot. Maybe some of it we won't even recognize we learned until we're a little further out. It still feels like we're so, I don't know. I just keep my eye on the news all the time, right? Like, what's happening now? Where is it going now? Is it everything okay? I think if everything had actually been okay last July, then maybe we wouldn't feel that way. But it was almost like we were like, yay, we could go wherever we want, we do whatever we do. And then it was like, except not.
Yeah, psych.
Yeah, it was so weird. It felt cruel. I mean, not that, well, who knows? Maybe the bugs that cause COVID really are cruel, but yeah, it felt like we had gotten this, reprieve where we were going to stores, we went on trips, and I was walking into restaurants without a mask on, and then all of a sudden changed. Yeah. I think that's what I'm afraid of, right? Like, is the other shoe going to drop again?
See, I was so different. I think after all of it, I stopped. I couldn't watch the news anymore. I was like, I don't want to. If there's information, my dad will share it. He gets all that information through work. Other than that, I was like, I can't. I need to move past my stress and my anxiety and focus on there is a sickness. I need to watch out for it. But my child, I was just like, I need to get out. My child needs to get out.
Yeah.
And we'll work through it if we have to. And I think after I had gotten COVID and he had gotten COVID when he was young, he got it around 6 months. And it was scary because I took him to the hospital. We were in the hospital for a couple nights because his fever just wouldn't go away. And it wasn't easy, but I think once I got through that, I was like, okay, I'm done. We've gotten it. We've gotten through it. I can't look at the news. It will just stress me out.
Yeah.
I just need to put it behind me and hope that everything goes where it needs to go, and just trust that we will slowly get better and the world will slowly get better and slowly it will fade out. And it's getting there. I mean, I was excited when, because last year we went to Hawaii, and I was so not excited about the fact that we had to go to the airport 2 hours before, but then an extra 2 hours before because we had to get tested in that airport, and you had to sit there for an hour and get your results, and it felt like the longest morning ever. And I was so excited because we've been researching it so much because our trip that we have was from 2020, so it's been pushed back all these years. It was for my in-laws were supposed to get remarried on the beach and they wound up doing it in their backyard. And so this is like the family celebration, I guess what we call it. But I was so like, oh, this late have to get tested this time. Like, how is this going to work? Like, there's so many of us. Oh, the funds for it, because it's also not cheap. Like for that fast of a test in the airport to go on a flight, because what with traveling, whatever is cheaper. And this time we were looking, we've been keeping up with the research, and I think it was like a month ago we looked up and it said March 25th, all of that's ending. And I was like, oh my goodness, like, thank you, world. Like, I needed this little uplift to remind me that the world's getting there. It's slowly fading, and even though there's all these different separate, like, little tiny COVIDs coming out, like, they're not as bad according to my dad. Like, they're getting better and they are turning into other things, but they're not worse than the full force original COVID. And we don't have to worry about that. We can actually, like, the fact that we can travel now without having those kinds of requirements is just like one step closer to getting, I think, a little bit back to more normal, which I just take as a win. A little bit more normal, a little bit happier.
Yeah. 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 I guess that's true. Something that I took with me was the news. Woo. Maybe it's time to let that one go. Wow. Yeah. Well, my last question is silver lining.
I feel like it made me more aware that I need to be more conscious of what my kids are touching and what they're doing, how often they're washing their hands, how often I'm washing my hands, just the hygienics of it all. It's been eye-opening. I already was sort of like a germaphobe, but now, but to some, to some safe extent,
Yes.
but now I'm very much more like sure of it, making sure that I'm, doing what I need to do. And it irritates my kids because, in schools, they've become more lax, especially in our area. And so, why do I have to do this? Why do I have to do that?
Yeah.
And it's like, these are all common things you should have been doing anyways. You should wash your hands for 20 seconds. Like, we have a timer when you wash your hands, just things like that. But you would think after all this time, it would have been ingrained in them, but I'm trying. And I think that is a silver lining because we haven't been as sick as often. And it's made me more aware of what is out there, what could be out there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Definitely. It's super true. I mean, I think of like how we all used to go bowling. That was a normal family activity. And like, you know how like dirty things are? And so I think that's definitely a big point because I always have hand sanitizer with me nowadays. I wash my son's hand as much as I can that he'll let me. And if not, I have like these super safe sanitizing wipes. So if every time we leave a store, every time we leave a dinner place or anywhere that even like we know they clean, I'm still like, okay, wash your hands because we know that that's going to touch your next food or that's going to touch your cup or that's going to go in your mouth. I definitely say that's a big one. Another big one, at least for me, was like I feel like going through that first pregnancy like that has made this pregnancy a lot more stress-free because I'm like, okay, I went through that. I can do this. As bad as it might get, I can get through this because I went through that. And, my little boy is like the happiest kid ever. And despite being stuck in a house or stuck where he was for so long, he is such a happy camper. He loves people. He is opposite of what I would have expected. I would have expected a kid that was super isolated and super introverted, didn't like anyone, was kind of just like shocked by people. And he is the goofiest, happiest boy and loves just flirting with people in the stores now. So I take that happiness as a win.
Yeah, totally. Oh my goodness. Yeah, for me, my phone will periodically like decide to show me like photos. And yesterday I pulled up photos from April 2020 and like, I mean, we do Passover and we do Easter. And so Passover, we didn't have a shofar, right? This is a big ram's horn you're supposed to blow. And so my husband decided to do it with this like shell. And it's probably one of the funniest videos we've ever done in our lives. Like he's like blowing into the shell and making these funny noises and there's like spit everywhere. And then, we were trying so hard to make it fun for our kids. So I had bought these, you ever heard of the cascarones, the eggs that are filled with confetti. So I had bought all of those last year, or I guess 2019, when they were all on clearance. And I pulled them all out and I was like, we are going to have fun. Let's go do it. And we started throwing those all over each other and, doing all that, which we had never done before, right? We were always doing what we do, right? Like, what do we do for Easter? We always do the same thing. And mom makes a ham and da, 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 da. Like all those things that we usually did, but it was still joyful and it was fun. And now those are something that we always do. And I think the shellfar will live in infamy in our house too. And it's probably going to be brought up every year. But like, even looking at those pictures of like, we were literally Zooming with our family to do those holidays, right? Like I mean, it was like tinged with sadness, but there's also, I don't know, there's a lot of joy there. And when I was looking at that picture too, that was also when I like started cutting my boy's hair. And so I went through and I was like, oh, not half bad. Right before those pictures were like the hair that was like this. Yeah. And so like, as much as it was hard and there was so much anxiety, like there are so many like beautiful memories from that time too, right? Like these like things where we figured out how to do it in a new way, and maybe it was better in some ways than the old way. But yeah, I don't know, maybe I need to spend more time looking at my old photos to remind myself that there were some big silver linings there. Yeah,
It does take reflection on those things to really appreciate what is happening now and then what you did to get through it. So that's a good reminder to take a reflection on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I even trimmed the dog's hair for a really long time, which is shocking to me in the extreme now, because as soon as those things opened up, I was like, we are taking our dog in. But the fact that I figured out how to trim is like, he's a poodle. He's like covered in hair.
But see, you were resilient through it. See?
I was resilient.
Yeah,
I figured out how
you
to
did
trim
what you had to do.
We trimmed the poodle first, and then I was like, if I can do the dog, maybe I can do you guys.
Hey, that's better than my dad. My dad, we have a schnauzer, so she has very long, fine hair. And he was like, I'm going to trim her hair. And he did it and made her look like a sheep because it was so choppy. It was so bad. And he's like, well, we never have to pay for a groomer. Whereas my mom's like,
I think that's what I thought the first time too.
Like, I'd rather pay for it so our dog doesn't look like an idiot when people do it. And still to this day, he won't pay for a groomer. He does it all himself, and every time she walks around looking like a mix between a sheep and a rat. It's so bad because she doesn't look like a schnauzer, because schnauzers have the perfect, like those like perfect haircuts.
Yes, the little face that gets cut off.
And now he just cuts it all so short, so her head's so small and her body's so fat. And it doesn't work. And every time we're like, come on, just let us take her to the groomer. Nope, I can do it. I proved to you. I did it for like a year and a half. Come on. And we're like, come on. She looks like ridiculous. Like, it's so bad.
Oh my gosh. I think the first time I did it, I was like, oh yeah, I could probably do this again. And then the second time I did it, and it took me 3 hours again, that was when I was like, yeah, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be doing this. And the same thing with haircuts. The first time I did it, I was like, wow. And then the second time I was like, there is hair everywhere.
My dad still, he just does it in the living room, puts TV on for himself. And he's like, no one come near us, because it makes her all nervous when she's getting cut. And he's like, it's okay, just leave us alone for a couple hours. And he's like, okay. And he finds like joy in this. And I'm like, how are you enjoying it?
Well, that's good. That's good. I wish I found joy in it.
That's because the dogs are like his babies. Like, literally, I know, like, my in-laws, they have 5 dogs. They have a giant Great Dane. Like, that's their baby. But my dad, it's just a completely different story. Like, he doesn't come home happy to see me or my brothers. He comes to see Slade and the 2 dogs. Like, that's it.
Oh, well, that's good. Maybe it's a relaxing, fun thing for him then. There you go. That's his silver lining. He now knows how to do it, and he doesn't have to pay for a dog.
Yes, despite my mother's urge.
I bet. Yeah. Boy. Well, any other silver linings we can think of?
I'm sure there's more, but
I'm sure there is. I can't. The one.
Yep.
I mean, I guess maybe like I appreciate more my family unit and the ones that live in my home with me, and appreciate the time I have with them more than I did, I think, before. I mean, of course I enjoyed my children and things like that, but now we're it like unified us more than I thought it would have.
Yeah.
And now I know, and not that I didn't know, but I don't take for granted that I have these special people in my home that I can care for and love, you know?
Yep.
Of course, I love people outside of my family unit, but the people in my home are what is most important to me.
Yeah, I mean, before I feel like everyone kind of, I mean, at least for my family, it was kind of, we just rolled with our schedule. Okay, we have this, we have this, we have this. So it was constantly just the same patterns over and over and over. Whereas the pandemic changed all of that, and it really forced people to spend time together. And so I think we had, like my family, we had a lot more camping trips because no one went to school, and my dad went to work, but that's because he worked in an ER, and then he'd come home for 2 weeks and we'd go camping for half the time, or we'd have family game night because what else was there to do? I know one time we were so excited we rented out a whole theater to ourselves at one of the movie theaters when they opened just to watch a movie. And so we got to bring Slade, and so having a baby wasn't super difficult. And it was so nice to just sit in a movie theater and watch a movie and spend that time together. So now I feel like we spend a lot more time together because we really, I feel like, got to know each other on like a deeper level. Whereas my brothers were also in that teen stage, so they also grew a lot. And so now it's like, oh, let's go do this together. And it's not a fight to do something because we really sat and spent so much time together that we started to grow together as a family.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think you're totally right about that. Yeah. My 15-year-old too, his way of dealing with the pandemic was to play a lot of piano. And I actually think he grew in his skills like almost exponentially during that time, as much as he was using it for like stress management. Like I watch it now and I'm like, I remember when I was his age, I started high school, and even though I really loved the piano, I had a whole bunch of other things to do. So I kind of like decreased my practicing, but he went like, zoop. And so now like his level of skill is so much higher. And I'm like, I don't know if you'd be there. You wouldn't be playing Chopin if you hadn't been in the pandemic. I mean, not that he would trade that, honestly. I don't know if he would. He would have happily gone back without it, but it's interesting to watch that. Yeah. I don't know if I developed any big skills, but he did. Oh, yeah. Just the skill of riding my bike somewhere. There you go. That's a skill.
My skill was I hated going in the pool because my brother splashed too much. I was like, I'm not getting in the pool because you guys will just splash me, and I don't want to get my hair wet. I just want to sit here and relax. And so I think I learned, especially being pregnant, swimming's really good for you and being really good for you. So I spent a lot of time in the pool, but me and my brothers learned to this is the area you can be in. Here's where I'll go. And you just have to ask me each time we get in the pool if I'm going to get upset if you splash me this day. And so we learned to kind of coexist in the backyard.
Negotiation. Yep. That makes total sense. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. We learned we could put two boys in a room together too. That was also interesting. We never thought we were going to do that. And then we were like, well, we're having to work from home now. Huh. And then they love it. They jump back and forth from each other's beds and they never want to leave their co-room. So who knew? They got more togetherness too.
So it works. They hate it now, but that's also because they're both for.
I'm sure they'll hate it when they get to be teenagers.
Like, I'm a soccer player, I'm in high school, and I'm gonna drive soon. And the other's like, why do I care? I'm playing video games, leave me alone.
Yeah, all that stuff hasn't changed.
Definitely.
All right. Well, I'm thinking maybe we end a little bit early today and maybe just end with a thought. Let's see. Maybe one word of like what we want to take with us from all the things we've discussed. Let's see. I'm going to end with maybe it's a little nostalgia. Right? Like 2 years ago, can that be nostalgia? Maybe. I mean, I don't want to go back to that time, but it wasn't so terrible. And we did learn a lot and get a lot of time together. Yeah, and I bought the cascarones already this year, so I'm ready.
Yeah, we do those every year too.
They're so fun.
Yeah. I think mine is the word you kept saying over and over again. It's one of my favorite words anyways, but the word joy. Because now in looking back, we're sort of on our way out of that. So I'm feeling joy for that. And then I'm feeling joy for the time that I had with my family during that time. As challenging as it was, we grew with each other, and I know more about them than I ever thought I would. So joy.
I would definitely say appreciation. Like, I think that for a while in everyone's life, we take people for granted and things we have for granted. But I think with the pandemic, it just really taught me this is when you really have to appreciate the people you have around you.
Yeah.
Because look at the things you can do when you really focus on what you have, like the people you have and what you have, and put aside like, oh, I need to work, or I need to go to school, or like those kinds of lively things, and focus on the actual people you have, because like things are just so great. I mean, I don't want to go back, but it was just appreciating what we had around us and really focusing on each other, I think just changed everything a lot.
Yeah. Megan, I know you're kind of in the background. I don't know if you have anything you wanted to share. I don't want to leave you know.
It's been really good for me to hear all of your stories and what you've come out of the pandemic with. And I think similar to what Lily was just saying, I don't think I realized how much good came out of the pandemic. I think especially lately, I've still been focusing a lot of like the bad things that happened.
Yeah.
But this has made me realize that there's silver linings to all of the storms that we experience. And even though the pandemic has been a huge one for everybody, there's still good things that came out of it. So to me, it was just a good reminder to be looking for the good in everything. So thank you all.
Yeah, I agree. Totally. Good reminder for that. All right. Well, I'm going to send you off telling you, if you have not registered for the conference, you should absolutely do it. You can already interact with other people in the Whova app, and there's already people who are going on the leaderboard. I think the top prize is a $100 gift card for a massage. So should you be the top leaderboard person in that, you get that. And then we have some other raffle prizes that are coming in. So go and make sure to register. And other than that, I will just say thanks for a good little hour of reflection on, what has happened and where we are now, and maybe having some appreciation for that, as opposed to just thinking of it as a terrible time that we sort of just lived through. All right. I'm going to actually, if you want to take us off Facebook Live.
I'm trying it.